So we have an exciting demo to show today. I'd like to get to it as soon as possible. Welcome, everyone, to the RChain community debrief. Thank you for taking time out of your day. And so to get to all the stuff we want to talk to, I'd like to hand it over to Rao to do the tech update. Rao, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm going to, I'll publish the link to it because there are a few edits I need to do still. I'll do that later on, but let me just speak to where we are with that. We're making good progress with the multi-parent block merge. Everybody should know by now, the 0.13.0 single-parent block merge version has been on the testnet for a few days now. I know just a little while ago, I think Gurinder and Ian completed updating the mainnet to 0.12.5. So the team is working full blast on getting this multi-parent block merge version out. And in addition to that, we are basically with the RPC shard going up. We're having to bring some of the activity that was originally planned for later in the year for sharding related changes. We're having to do them now to enable the multiple shards and then prevent reusing of deploys from one shard in another. So the one particular change, which is adding shard ID inside the signatures to make sure, to ensure multi-shard operation, that's being worked on by the team. Another thing that Tomislav has started and Stas is working on is this SDK, what is being called the SDK project, to make the code more modular and serve as a base for R node domain logic with the corresponding data types. So there is work that is going on there. And I think the other activity is that Will had found a bug in the tree hash map code, which he has fixed, that's being reviewed right now to be put into this, into production, into the production as in the multi-parent branch. The other thing he's looking at is making the chain upgradable, because when we go to hard fork 2, as much as possible, we want to be able to do rest of the changes as soft forks. So towards that, Will is looking into the code that is already there to make registry upgradable, because that's a big part of the thing, that if we can make it upgradable, all the other things can mostly go in as soft forks. So he's starting there to look at how to make registry upgradable. So that's another piece that's being worked on. And Tomislav is working on the core, the completion of the finalization and the multi-parent block merge piece. There are a couple of folks that were on vacation came back. There are Dennis is looking into Rholang primitives improvement in performance improvement for Rholang primitives. So he started on the investigations and did some initial, Tomislav and he did some initial profiling of those operations earlier. So he's now getting back to take a look at that and see how to improve that. So those are the big highlights for this week as to what work is being done. And with that, I can hand over to, I guess the demo would be next. Are there any questions on any of this before I hand over?
One quick question. You mentioned there's some investigation into the performance of Rholang primitives. I know there was discussion of the performance of Rholang maps. Is that included in what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, map is part of the map set and list, I guess, of the 3 different things that they're looking into for performance improvement.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, over to you, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you, Rao. Thanks to the dev team for all the hard work. Is Theo on the call? Yes, he is. Theo, are you ready to give a demo?
Yes, I'm ready. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to demo first version of our drive that we're working on that allows users to interact with blockchain, with RChain using a file system that everyone is already familiar with. So let's start. So I'm going to show this whole content of this folder. You see we don't have anything mounted yet. We just have a couple of files. So I'm just running our application. And if we do ls, we have an R drive folder that has been mounted. So now we can navigate to it by doing cd. And we do ls and see what's inside. So we see a box 1. And I should mention that this version is based on RChain token. And this is why we still have this concept of boxes and purses. So boxes are folders currently represent boxes, and files currently represent purses currently represent files. So I'm gonna show it in a minute. So folders essentially contain our NFTs. So if we see what's inside of our box, oops, I haven't navigated to it yet. Box 1. So we see we have 3 files, which are also shown here inside of RChain token CLI. So those are currently identical. So now what we can do is essentially create a new file. Let's run this command. We call this file debrief.txt. And we give it a few seconds to create a block. You should see all the deploys coming here in real time in the bottom left. So it's creating this first. Now if we do an ls, again, in C files. Oops, block hasn't been created yet. Let's try again. There we go. Now we see a new file called debrief.txt. So what we can do now is write to it. So let's do an echo command. Okay. Hello, RChain. We write it to debrief.txt. If you see here on the bottom left, we have received a deploy which updates purse data and sets the data to hello RChain. So we're essentially just writing to a file and also writing data to an NFT. So, and now once the block has been created, what we can do is read the contents, what we just wrote to the file. So we can do just cat debrief.txt. And we see hello RChain. So we just successfully written to a file and read from a file, and that file lives on the blockchain. And we did not use any tools. We just used regular file system. But anyway, that concludes the demo for now.
Thank you, Theo. It's a great demo. I think for the hackers in the room, this should be very, very exciting. Maybe for those people who don't regularly use a shell, they're scratching their heads going, what? What did I just see?
I wanted to use a file system, but it's not a file browser, but it's not ready yet to use that.
Yeah,
So,
understood.
maybe
Yeah,
for the next demo.
Yeah, no, understood. It was a great demo. I think it's really quite interesting. Any questions for Theo?
You said that you're
Well,
using Fuse, right?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
So it should work just as good on Mac and Linux. We don't have an integration for Windows yet, but it will be coming after the Paris event.
so this is pretty cool, right? So the one thing I wanted to, when Theo gave me this demo earlier today, what I wanted to the even better if comments that I made to Theo and the team was that he's making it too easy, in the sense that behind the scenes he's doing a bunch of token management, right? So every deploy that is being sent to the chain is using tokens from a wallet that Theo has already set up in advance. Every dApp on the planet that is going to use chains, and hopefully progressively more and more to manage data and other digital assets, will face the problem that this is hiding behind the scenes, which is that they're going to need tokens for every single request, right? That LS required a token. The Echo and the Cat required a token.
No, rigging probably won't require the token because only write operations.
Yeah, okay, you can do the exploratory deploys. But potentially it requires a token, whether depending on how much you want to, certain kind of security guarantees. So the issue is that that means that all user requests are potentially stopped by this paywall, right? And we know how annoying paywalls can be. So the question is, how do we address the paywall? So one is, let's imagine that Granny is using this to manage her photos of her family, right? So one is that Granny is already crypto savvy, and so she's already got a Rev wallet or an RPC wallet, and so she just wires up the wallet to her browser, her file browser, or her the way she's managing her folders on chain, and she's good to go. But more likely, Granny is not crypto savvy, and so she needs to either pay up front, so some kind of subscription model, or she needs to be willing to receive ads, and so there would be some way in which sponsored content would come back to Granny. So, for example, her file browser itself may have a banner associated with it, or some place where the ads are displayed as she's accessing and updating data. So those are the first of all, demonstrating the pain points and then bringing home the solutions. And the reason why this is important is because it's market wide. It's not just specific to RChain. Every single dApp that is going to be doing management of digital assets through the chain is going to face this paywall problem and has to solve it some way. And RChain and RPC and Dazzle have provided use cases and solutions for all the different options that Granny faces. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Lively crowd. I'll be here all week. Okay, so moving on. If there are no other questions about the demo, I can give a quick update. Following on from last community debrief with respect to what's been happening in terms of Dubai and our visit and follow up. So we have been speaking with a lot of projects that are very interested in building on RChain. There was a metaverse project that we spoke to just before this call that finds our solution to be very powerful. I will say that it's just now that people are getting the importance of the fact that Rholang is a query language. So I don't know if I've said it in the community debriefs. I've been saying it so much to so many people, and I've been saying it for so many years. I don't know if I've actually ever said this on the community debriefs, but in general, as we move towards more and more content being managed through Web3 style applications, we're going to face another problem that was already solved in Web 2, which is search. What brought on this sort of global market, this unified market, was the fact that you could hop on Google or DuckDuckGo or Bing or any of these search engines and look for the things you wanted. You could look for content, you could look for references, you could look for agents or people, and that's what enabled a kind of global market. If assets are on chain or being managed through chains, they become opaque to search again, and especially if there is no ability to tag or otherwise look into the data that's being managed through chain, right? So if data is on IPFS, how do you Google search the contents of the data? That's a challenge, and so we don't want to take a step backwards when we go to Web3. We want to take a step forward, and Rholang is intended as that step forward, which is that Rholang provides sophisticated query mechanisms for all data that's on chain. Rholang can look into the structure of the data and look at other aspects of the data. So when we talked to artists who had already had experience with minting NFTs, to a person, they all said, now that I've minted an NFT, what happens? How do people find my NFTs? Right? That's the search problem. That's what I was just talking about. How do the artists connect with their audience? How do musicians connect with their audience if their material is on chain? And right now, if it's behind Ethereum and IPFS, it's opaque. There's no way to find it. But with Rholang, you can begin to query, and there are interesting opportunities here that have to do with objective properties of digital data. So while people might argue about whether a given track is rock or pop or jazz or hip hop or rap, right? They might, if you listen to Tyler, the Creator, I think there's a good case to be made that's jazz. But I think there's also a good case to be made that that's hip hop, and so those are subjective judgments at this point. There's no objective way to answer that question, at least currently. But there are objective things you can say about digital audio. You can say what beats per minute. You can detect that. Recently, there have been some interesting developments for algorithmic detection of key. So you could analyze the digital asset and see what key or keys the track visits. You can also algorithmically detect with some degree of success instrumentation. Does this have a violin in it? Things like that. And now imagine a DJ who's trying to plan an event. They may want to create a certain kind of contour to the event, right? So it starts off a little chill, then it increases in intensity to a peak moment, and then has a denouement, right? So it kind of falls off. So, but that corresponds to exactly those properties we just described, right? So the DJ wants to issue queries. Find me some tracks that are kind of down tempo, maybe minor keys, or maybe Mixolydian mode, so that it's not quite minor, but it's a little bit darker, or Dorian, not quite minor, but a little bit darker. And then intensity is higher beats per minute, and maybe moving to a major key, or maybe even Lydian, and a Lydian mode. And then for the denouement, again, we want to reduce the beats per minute and maybe move to more ambiguous key structure. And again, the intensity, can be also measured via instrumentation. So maybe it's more intense if it's got, a lot of drums and rock guitar, whereas it's less intense if it's a lot of strings and synths. So these are objective properties that can be determined from the digital assets, queried for using Rholang. And now the DJ can issue queries to craft his set against a bank of music NFTs. The same is true for digital fine art, right? So we can imagine that someone's got a room with several panels in the walls that are set for displaying digital art. Maybe the room already has a color theme, like maybe the room is mostly painted blue. So an interior designer who is helping to set up the NFT displays, right? They might be looking for particular colors, which again can be algorithmically determined from the digital NFT assets, right? So we're talking about, maybe they look for NFTs that have predominantly a blue scheme, or maybe a purple scheme, or maybe they're looking for some golds or some off-whites. Things like that, and there's no reason why that the NFT displays in that room have to be fixed, right? It doesn't have to be the same NFTs day after day, month after month, year after year. In fact, they could be refreshing on a regular basis. Again, how would that happen? Because you have a standing query that's looking for different color schemes to highlight the room, and maybe change the color schemes as the seasons change. So these are all things that could be done if you have a query language that enables you to search against a variety of digital assets that are, fine art NFTs or digital art NFTs, where you can run some algorithmic processing in terms of the color and other aspects of the artwork. So this is not possible, and not even reachable in the existing the contemplated NFT structure. It's available right now in Rholang, right? If you plug in the algorithms that extract the properties from the digital assets, then Rholang is ready to query over those properties and deliver up the results today. So this is the vision that we have for the Web3 world, which is not, it's only building upon the Web2 world, the lessons of Web2. My concern is that the blockchain communities have forgotten most of the lessons of Web2. So when it came to addressing, they forgot about URLs. When it came to payments, they forgot about online advertising. And when it came to the access and ubiquity of data, they forgot about search. All of those lessons are learned in the RChain architecture and realized in the existing artifacts like Rholang. Does that make any sense? People grokking what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, I don't know whether it's that they forgot. I think it's more like they didn't think it's possible. So they don't really, to them, they're probably thinking, oh, well, if I just need search for an NFT, I'll just use Web 2.0. I'll just use Google. They don't realize that, integrating that into the blockchain and having storage on the blockchain opens up all sorts of potential use cases when the NFT can be attached to the actual thing. Then you have this whole other universe. And I don't think they're even contemplating that. So it's less about them forgetting. It's more about them just not even thinking in that kind of a paradigm.
Yeah, I think you may be correct about search. Addressing is, I'm less convinced. I think they just forgot.
Okay.
And likewise with payments, I've heard no one since 2016 when things exploded has been talking about the paywall, the dApp space.
Yeah.
Right. Where's all the big literature about that? Where's all the big solutions? Right. Nobody's talking about it. Right. So all we're doing is to say all this stuff from Web 2 that was good and created these global markets, let's not throw any of that away. URLs, very good. Let's not throw that away. Online sponsored content, let's not throw that away. It's actually a key enabler for that market. And search. That's very, very important. So we have to have all of those capabilities if we want Web 3 to be a step forward from Web 2.
Yes.
Any questions, comments from the community? Okay. So some housekeeping. We are rapidly approaching the end of the epoch. So Ian, what did we say about when we would start accepting staking processing requests?
Any time from now until the end of the month. And that also goes for people who wish to exit from the co-op staking pool. Either case, just email staking@RChain co-op. And we also have a Discord channel that gives some of the details about what the seigniorage and reward structure is for the staking.
Excellent, very good. Also, with respect to the snapshot, I understand that the RPC wallet.txt file is going up on GitHub today. Is that right, Bill?
It will be available as soon as you can let me go at this call. Yeah.
Fantastico.
Yeah.
Wunderbar. So that will give people some extra time, since even though it was taken on the Friday, it wasn't released for review. So we'll give people those days between Friday and whenever it gets published on GitHub. We'll give those extra days back as a part of the review days before mainnet goes live. I know that there were some issues with Rev holders who were trying to get their tokens out of exchanges. We do have solutions for that, which we will talk about in the closed door session. Please don't worry. We are doing our best to work both with exchanges and to provide other solutions to make sure that no one is disenfranchised. I want to thank our China team for liaising with the exchanges to make sure that we do have options for people who got stuck with their tokens in exchanges. Any questions about that? Okay. Anything else we want to talk about?
Oh, I have the week in review I could do.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, everybody. Here is the week in review for March 10th to March 16th. On Friday, in the Climate Coordination RCast, we discussed repeated flooding in Australia, plant and insect extinction, pussy riots, NFTs for Ukraine, and lily pad architecture. On Saturday, in the RGov Smart Contract call, they worked on Agoric, Rholang. They did a Rholang crash course and did live coding capability transport cross-chain protocol to Rholang gateway. On Monday in the Casper stand-up, it covered a generic notion of negation and corresponding power object to be used in the proof theory of OSLF. Yesterday in the communications working group, we spent most of the call collaborating on the Paris Blockchain Week poster background for the booth. This morning in the RChain active member hangout, we discussed how even though it has taken much longer than we said it would for RChain to deliver Mercury, Ethereum is in the same boat with their predictions for Ethereum 2.0, and we are still ahead of every layer 1 blockchain at delivering a workable proof of stake blockchain that's horizontally scalable and can store files directly on the base layer. David then passionately and convincingly brought up the need for inter-blockchain connectivity with RChain, which led to Jim describing Agoric's potential contributions. And that brings us to now.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Darryl. Sorry for
a quick comment on the Paris collateral. RPC is interested in minting the Paris collateral as NFTs for Paris. So if we could coordinate over the next week or so and figure out how that might happen.
Okay, cool.
All right.
I do have one quick question. I'm not sure what form I should bring this up in, so I'll bring it up here. I've had several friends of mine sign up to the RChain co-op recently, and I have specifically asked them to provide me feedback on the experience, and I have that feedback. I don't know where, who, and when to give that feedback. Can somebody direct me, please?
Oh, I'd love to know what the feedback is. So we can set up a time if you want to set something up in Discord.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I'd be into being on that call too.
All right.
All right. Any other questions, comments we want to cover? Very good. Thanks to all. We're making good progress. There's more that we can talk about in the closed door session. So yeah, hope to see many of you on Friday's calls. Ciao for now. Please stay safe, stay warm, and see you on the other side.